Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. I'm Fresmelin, and today we're back with some more Binding of Issac. As you probably can see by my win streak being in the negative 8s, I've been playing a lot of Issac behind the scenes and trying to get runs that were at least semi-decent. I don't care if I win or lose them, I would just like them to get to a certain point where I feel like, you know, when I've actually played a game and to, like, you know, can have a talk and a chat and stuff like that. So, I've not been having the best of luck. We'll save the Spirit Heart for later then. But how are we all? I hope we're all doing alright. Because I'm having a grand old time. No, I'm going to blow these pots, they're annoying me. There we go. So, I have been, you know, catching up on some news, stuff like that, looking into some articles and things. Speed down. Yeah, that's great. Ooh, Capricorn though. I'll take that. So yeah, I've been kind of like keeping an eye on some things and, you know, watching stuff around. And one of the things that caught my attention while kind of, you know, death scrolling and the usual stuff that I end up doing in sort of my boredom whenever I do get bored from my normal day-to-day activities is I came across an article about one of... Is it like the Historical Gaming Preservation Project thing? I believe that's what it's called, or something similar to that effect. And how they put a copyright in to basically try and copyright the idea of an online library for public use, which obviously failed. I say obviously, it might not seem obvious to a lot of people why it failed, but we'll have a talk. It'll be Melon's Corner, and we'll have a small discussion on why I believe it's failed and why people seem to now have an issue also with the fact that it has failed. So, first of all, online libraries, stuff like that. The sentiment of it is a noble one. I'm not going to deny that. It's a great idea in theory and practice. The problem when I read the article is the intent of why they were putting a copyright on it was not the reason they probably thought that they should have, right? So, the main reason is basically like, what is a copyright? Well, a copyright is a legal agreement that allows no one else, and I'm having a real bad time with this, to essentially create a product that is similar to someone else's after they basically put a bunch of research into it. Pentagram, really nice. Let's go down. Oh, I could have gone to shop actually. I should have gone to shop. It's a shop. So yeah, like that's the whole point of a copyright, yeah? If I create a product and I put money and time and effort into designing this product, I should be able to recoup my costs of the development of that product as well, right? And what a copyright does, it allows me to basically do exactly that. And the problem is like their intention was not to copyright the idea of the library, but it was probably more on the lines of, we want a legal loophole that says we can do this. You know, essentially getting around the copyright on other people's properties and stuff, which, thanks to Disney, is stupid long. But that's a different argument in itself. So that's one of the reasons why it failed, because there was no actually intent to make a profit on an idea that originally is their own, and they were obviously going to give all that stuff out, I assume, for free, but chances are there might be more nefarious things play behind the scenes, and because it didn't go ahead, it didn't happen. You know, human beings can both have great ideas and bad ones, and I tend to be on the side of the worst deeds are done with good intentions. Right? Do I believe, like, it would have come out as sunshine and rainbows if they did get the copyright on it? Probably not. Like, there would have been so many other legal issues that would have came around that. on how they would implement it, fund it, raise it, usual stuff like that. And this might sound a bit petty in a way, because I know it will. But if I was the patent office at that point, I would have given them the patent on the restriction that they couldn't make a single profit from donations. Rockets in a jar. How nice. And yes, I understand how petty that is, and absolutely how hilarious it would have been for it to happen. Not, being mean to anyone else that was involved in the project. I said the best intentions are always there, but here's the issue that you have with something like a copyright with what they were planning to do. So essentially what they would have ended up doing is dominating in a market that doesn't exist with regards to second-hand usage of media, games, whatever, right? Oh. Yeah, we'll just do that. I've already lost the deal level, so. And essentially, if you weren't going to get it from them, where were you going to get it from, right? So, what happens after that? Like, where do you really go from there? Just hit the Bible, why not? So they've got a stranglehold on an entire industry in the second-hand market of games that no longer are on sale, to supply them with people that are supposedly meant to be for free, which is what they specified it was going to be for research purposes and personal entertainment, essentially. Intruder. Right? Which, in theory, you know, sounds great, but it can be heavily abused and misused if they got the copyright for it, because no one else could have competed with them, and they would have a stranglehold on the market, and they could basically start charging people whatever they wanted. And they may not be able to charge them, but people that were involved in the project said no, that was never our intention. And as I said before, the worst things are done with the best intentions. Like, once you've got a stranglehold on something, people will try and make a profit margin from it, and that's probably what would have happened eventually. Maybe not straight away, not maybe immediately, maybe not, you know, a few years down the line. But while they had that patent, it becomes a stronger and stronger possibility that that would be the case, especially if there's no competition, which is the whole point. The copyright is there to basically prevent competition while you have a unique product, so you can make your development costs back, which they would not have had any. To point that out, it would be something they would have to set up. Then you got the other side of the coin of like their idea and everything else. How would that be funded? How would that be implemented? Like, there weren't no real concrete answers to stuff like that, especially online media. Like, all this stuff needs to be thought about if you're going to implement this stuff. And there are probably smarter people that were involved in that project, you know, than myself, that probably all had this all kind of mapped out. But again, it kind of needs to be specified, no? I always err on the side of caution when it comes to stuff like these for many, many different reasons. And there's something my mum used to say was, trust no one, including yourself. Like, what you think now is maybe not something you'll think later down the line, and that's why you shouldn't trust anyone's opinion. Opinions change, so does matter, so do circumstances. What was promised today may not be promised tomorrow. Kind of a negative outlook on stuff, but it served me well. So, I need to go with it. So, yeah, you have that aspect. Which I'm not going to say is kind of like overall bad or a good thing, but it's definitely a thing. And then I said, why don't we start looking at it from an aspect as a consumer, right? So company's basically got a stranglehold on this entire thing. Cool. That they can do whatever they want with now, and if I want to have access to games that essentially are out of print, I have to go to them to get them. Like, that's essentially what ends up happening. I will try this pill. HP up, shot sees down. That's kind of fine, I guess. Oh, this is the terrible room. It's just... yeah, like, at that point, I have no choice but to hand over, in theory, money to get access to stuff that they did not have access to. And yeah, they got to create the archive, they got to create the online stuff. The other thing is the more worry is the experimental, or the research purposes stuff and things like that as well. So, if relating it to a library of games and stuff, right? You know, that seems interesting. But like games themselves aren't like books. They're not as simple. They're more complex, right? Interesting. So with them being a bit more complex than just your standard book that you could rent from a library or, you know, borrow, take free of charge for public use and all this stuff. Games are a little bit different because as long as you get it to run, like, if you installed it on your own machine, you've got access to everything. You don't need to uninstall it anymore. You can just continue to run it. Like, you get a permanent game free of charge. Now, at that point, if you got the game on, if they got a license to use one game, so, you know, they could rent that game out, essentially. Or at least if we're going by what they said, that's what they do with it. Once it's being rented out, can they rent it out to someone else as well? Like, are they allowed to rent it out multiple times, or do they only rent it out one per person? And now you kind of see my my issues with that is the fact that at that point then it doesn't just damage a second-hand market, it completely destroys it. Because there is no incentive to return it or stuff like that or anything at all. It's just, yeah. You have that game now from just borrowing it from this online archive library. And then there's the issue of, like, if they do get security stuff or stuff like this, everything else, well, where does that funding come from? It just... like, even before it started, it sounded like a dodgy business practice. And I understand that's probably not the way they wanted to come across or anything else as well. But it also didn't help at the same time that when they didn't get their own way, they essentially started talking about how the fat cats in the White House and everything else as well, in Congress and usual stuff, were not allowing us to do what we wanted to do. You know, all the lobbyists and everything else were all against us, you know, us versus the world, and all that mentality. And I'm like, no, like, I can see the reasons why your request would get denied for the copyright to it. Like, I'm not going to be petty on that front, but yeah, I can kind of see where people can come through on a normal level. Because it just seemed really that you wanted any excuse you possibly could do to kind of set up this online archive to scoot around copyright agreements that were already on games that you can't touch yet. And essentially you're just making another blockbuster. Look what happened to that. Right? So, yeah. I don't know, like I am a bit of a negative Nancy on it, you know? Like, I will be a negative Nancy on it, because if I'm not, then it's like, what was the correct thing? Like, what are the other options that they could have done to try and do what they wanted to do, right? Not saying that an online archive for classical games and stuff would not be a great idea, but there needs to be some agreement with the publishers as well as also the developers and everyone else that made those games to be able to release those in that state, right? At the end of the day, you're trying to do something with someone else's intellectual property that is not your own. Books are a little bit different because I can't just copy a book, right? I have to read it and then return it, and essentially I'm leasing the book. And you can do the same thing, but then there's a, like, how do you set that infrastructure up for a game when you don't have the proper gaming software? And that's not even me then started talking about stuff like the back-end code and stuff like that that's probably all on these games. I mean, I think they got the issue with the red box and stuff like that in America at the moment, where people are getting their personal data leaked because they're still stored on those boxes when people are now buying them, like, from auction and stuff. Like, people are reverse engineering all the technology in there to get all their personal information, credit card numbers, addresses, stuff like that. You know, rental history. I'm like, yeah, you can do the same thing with someone's source code for a game. Which is what they'll need access to be able to get these games working on an online environment. Like, yeah, that then is a hacker's dream, right? Oh, really? I didn't think that hit me. You're gonna have a bunch of people on essentially what something would, I assume, would be some sort of open source stuff with a bunch of vulnerabilities on everything else. They'll either have to have an online environment which you have to kind of subscribe to or sign into to be able to access, that probably will not be set up 100% accurately, that's done by a free service, which again will not be given the finances to be stable enough for you people to be able to use it in the correct manner. Straw. Thank you very much. Straw is so good. Like, the more I think about it, the more I find questions and answers, right? The more I tend to find there are more issues with it than good things, and yeah, I can be called a hater and everything else on it, but if they genuinely thought they were going to succeed, a level of professionalism rather than pettiness would have been the first thing I expected from people of that, you know, with good intentions. Not name-calling and blaming others. That's just me, right? Do I think something like that could probably exist in the future? More likely, like, something will eventually exist, like, it just will. And if companies themselves aren't thinking of doing it on their own, someone else will do it. But you need the infrastructure to keep stuff like that going. It's not as simple as just, oh yeah, here's access to all the games. It's, okay, here's all the access, but how do we limit so the access isn't abused? How do we limit it so people can still get what they want from it, right? You really got to think about these things. It's never as simple as what people think. That's all I'm going to say, really, there. Like, I might have moaned about it a lot for the past, like, God knows how long, but yeah, the intention, I don't believe, was as honest as they might have been saying it was, especially given the reaction they had to it, right? I mean, it's kind of like basic 101 psychology. When someone has a negative intent in some case or form, they get kind of pulled on it in some way, shape or form, they normally attack the other party rather than act with moral superiority in any way, shape or form, right? And that's exactly what they ended up doing, is they started bad-mouthing people that were involved with the decision-making process rather than looking at the actual decision process of what they did and why it was denied. My other argument is did they say what they think they said in the interview process for that? Are they being as honest as they say they are to other people about it? Or is it just, again, looking for clout? Not really. I hate these ghosts. Because to me, like, majority of the time it always ends up looking like someone's looking for some sort of, like, clout or something to, you know, beat someone else, as it were, right? It's never as simple as it just being like, oh yeah, like, his honest intentions. There's always some other motivation behind the scenes working at play, right? And I don't want to be negative about the whole idea of it and stuff like that. I just think that, one, trying to get a copyright on something that you know is meant to be free of charge isn't going to get you the copyright on it. And two, I think they were just looking for a legal loophole to try and be able to come up with their archive plan without getting in the way of a copyright agreement with other companies, right? Because that would be the defense, is they would have set it up, and then companies would have gone, you can't do that, that's our intellectual property, and they'll go, oh no, we have a copyright for this is why we can do it, which would not stand up. So it's kind of saving them from their own stupidity. And I hate the fact they have to say it like that, but it generally is. I could have quite easily seen them basically going straight away and going, yeah, sure, we'll go and do this. You know, getting caught in the wrong place at the wrong time and all that stuff. Chemical peel. It is a shame. It kind of is, though, because they could have had something good on their hands, and now because they feel like they're defeated, they've kind of gone through the toys in the pram and gone, oh, we can't do this, no one's going to let us do this, you know. Basically be mean for no real reason about it. Like, do I think they have a point that, you know, people in power actually were able to stop this stuff and prevent them from doing the thing they want to do? There's probably some element of truth to that. I don't think it's as honest as they're probably being with you guys. You know? I honestly think if they were being as honest as they say they are about it, I don't think this would be as big of an issue as they're trying to make it out to be, right? That was such a good pick-up there. Might have saved the run. That should be me nitpicking on the idea of it, because I just think as a consumer of games and media and everything else as well, I have this feeling that it would have negatively impacted a second-hand market, right? I don't think it would have a positive effect on it in any way, shape, or form if it could have gone ahead. At least not with a copyright on it. It sounds stupid, just if you want to do stuff like that, turn yourself into Spotify. For games, like, create a company, create the software, get licenses to be able to do it, and essentially create your own Game Pass. And then just do it with a bunch of old games, but you're going to need access to those games and a way to be able to do all that stuff, right? That's the thing you got to think about. Is what was the intent with the copyright to do that? To do it that particular way? Why did it have to be done that way? What? Does that change direction because it's coming from the other side? That's silly. But yeah, I mean, overall, I'm happy it kind of failed. I'm indifferent to the whole idea of it. Like, whether it failed or succeeded, I think the outcome would have probably been the same regardless. Except we'd have a lawsuit instead on our hands later down the line rather than it just being a, you know, out with a bang instead of a whimper. The whole point would be to do it practically, and I know there's a lot of issues with, like, do we own our own media nowadays and everything that goes alongside that, and it is a very important subject to go across when it comes down to online downloads and usability and things like that. When it comes to online services and what is provided, I think that is kind of... You go in there expecting that as an issue, right? When I start investing time into a game that has online functionality that requires me to play with other people and log into a server to connect myself to other people, there is a limited time frame of when those servers will be active for. They won't be going indefinitely. It's just not... It's not feasible. And anyone thinks that a server should run 24/7, 7 days a week, and be going on for the end of time, doesn't know how much keeping a server can actually cost someone. Right? Especially depending on the capacity of players and stuff like that as well. Like, it can be a very expensive process. Nothing is ever as simple as it seems. And, you know, what you can't do is then rely on other games to go through. Now, is this a fault with the gaming industry on the fact that they're all trying to do online multiplayer games? Yeah, 100%. They always want to try and milk you for everything you're worth, which is not going well for them, as we can all see currently with what's happening with Ubisoft. But, you know, gaming companies will learn. It's survival or die, and unfortunately, Ubisoft, I think, is just the first of many, many companies that are going to be going down the same route, the same path. I mean, we've seen a few of them, and there's news about that constantly at the moment already, with CD Projekt Red having the same issue as Ubisoft currently going through all that. Which, let's just say, it explains a lot, if that is the case, about some of the quality of the games that they released with Cyberpunk. It's just that simple at that point. Because companies are no longer trying to, you know, create a game for creating a game's sake, they're creating it to create profits, and I think that's where you end up losing touch. Because what you end up trying to do is you try to appeal to a wider audience, and then you appeal to no one. Which is a shame. Oh yeah, and the whole stupid The whole stupid Dragon Age stuff, oh, that's absolutely hilarious. That's blowing up in people's faces already. It's absolutely brilliant. I would advise no one to buy that game. I'm not even buying it, and I've already seen the reviews and stuff on it already. I think it's absolutely hilarious. The reason why I think it's hilarious is because, well, you can probably double check it on the Steam store page right now, actually. You can literally look it up where it says that it's in, you know, it literally has got a tag for it being a woke game. And I've always been on the attitude of, if you have to describe your game as something as unique as that as a selling point, you haven't made a good game. And between that, it's the interfering of the story and stuff that's always the issue, right? I lost way too many hearts by doing that. And I forget to use the straw, man. When he remembers he's got the straw, it literally comes to a room with no enemies in it. Nope. Actually, that's not bad if I can get multi-dimensional baby in the right place when I pick that up. Let's see. Tape up the baby. So yeah, there's that whole debacle that will end up going down in history as a, you know, game that was hated by the gamers. I'm sorry. That just reminded me of how stupid some of this stuff really is. I made a game for the gamers, and the gamers hate it. So clearly it's the gamer's fault. I'm just thinking of Principal Skinner from The Simpsons. Should I be out of touch? No, it's the children that are wrong. But yeah, that's exactly what game companies are doing at the moment. I think, as I said, like in some other videos, I don't know how companies are allowing this still to continue, right? When it quite clearly is affecting their profit margins on a basic level, right? Like, if I saw our profit margins dropping, the first thing I'd be doing is going straight down to, you know, a departmental research team being like, okay guys, what's happening? What's going on? Why is this an issue? Speak now, tell me. I don't know if it's just that the CEOs don't care, or... Yeah, it's Gamble. Leviathan. But yeah, so it is an interesting debate on that front of like why companies are just happy to bleed money and not actually recoup their profit margins on stuff that they spend an exorbitant amount of money on. Oh, come on, really? The left hand has appeared in the basement. Yeah, fine, we'll pick up left hand. Why not? Not that it'll do anything now, but still. Like, I'll moan about it a lot anyway, because I like to whinge, I'm British. But it's a thing where I think no one's really being honest in a situation of what their intentions ever are, and it's causing more and more problems because of that as well. No idea where that was that I killed, but I killed it. And I generally think like that's going to become like eventually all the games will yeah, they'll fix themselves. It just will. Like profit margins will decrease, no one will buy them.
8-hour energy.
Let's go face the heart. Like it will have no choice. They'll either adapt or die. Which is a funny way to put it, considering the circumstances. Do I honestly think there is any difference in between one or the other? Like, we're losing stuff constantly on a daily basis. There are things that go missing all the time, and stuff changes, the environment adapts, and at the moment, an agenda is being forced onto an industry which does not care. And I said it once before, we had the same thing appear with the comic book industry, and look how that ended. We don't even hear about it now, which is a very interesting debate on that front. But yeah, I mean, if you do enjoy these videos and have an opinion of my random ramblings of me being an idiot and everything else as well, yeah, leave a like on the video, subscribe to see more, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.